What does it do, YouTube? Welcome back. Scotty back at you with another episode of Scotty Said. And tonight we are talking NFL. Week 13 wrap up. Rams get the victory. They get the dub against Jacksonville in a get-right game. They bounce back. They rebound. And for the moment, steady the ship. A lot to unpack in this game. Let's dig right in, shall we? We shall. First of all, right out the gate, what to my wondrous eyes does appear but a kick returner in LA Rams gear? Yeah, man. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw a legitimate looking kick returner by the name of Brandon Howell. I learned from the practice squad, promoted to kick returner, returned the opening kickoff of the game, and broke it out for 60 plus 65 yards, starting the Rams out in great field position. And this is what, among other things, I've been clamoring about, calling for. Where's the special teams? Where's the kick returners? And we still see Cooper Kupp back there on punts. But for now, I'm taking solace in seeing incremental improvement. And it was good to see Mr. Howell back there. And let's hope that initial kick return won him the job for the weeks to come. But that drive still fell short. Stalled out when, I don't know, I think I'm going to call this guy consonants. Ben Skowronek, just call him consonants, okay? He needs to buy a couple vowels. Ben Skowronek. Consonants drops a pass, and I'm like, this seems to me like a practice squad type dude who, due to injuries and lack of depth, there it is again, rearing its ugly head, lack of depth. Due to these things, we see people like Ben Skowronek, consonants, dropping passes in key, crucial situations. And so they had to settle for 3 right out the gate. Also, there were some offensive line injuries early on. And so again, I felt a little sense of dread because I know how thin the Rams are depth-wise. They pay a few guys a lot of money, and then a lot of guys are at the other end of the scale making little to nothing. And so you've got that disparity. Because of that disparity, I think it's a clear-cut case of how the Rams have, in many ways, overplayed their hand. There's no better example of that than the Kenny Young for Von Miller exchange, I'll call it. Because, it wasn't a one-for-one swap right out the box. It was sort of, a delayed, pull the trigger kind of slick move. But in essence, the Rams traded Kenny Young, a high-performing piece of their defense. They pull him out and trade him for Von Miller, who, at this point, I think it's been 3 games now since the Von Miller trade, has done a grand total of pretty much nothing. Dropped an interception today, but Von Miller is a name. And so, you want to trade the future for a retiring, aging name? This is front office shrewd maneuvers and brilliance, or is this foolishness? But the defense did look better, and I have to give them credit. Now, keep in mind, as I do, it was Jacksonville, and they're bad. So, the Rams needed a bad opponent because they seem to have a lot of trouble with good ones. We'll get back to that a little bit later. But from the D, I saw something that I hadn't seen in games. And that was creating a turnover or two. That's been sorely missing from the defense. Seeing AD99 get that strip sack and the Rams recover that fumble, that was huge just because that's been so evidently absent from the Rams defense, the ability to generate and create turnovers. And at the same time, the offense has been giving it away. And so when you got a defense that can't create a turnover and an offense that's prone to keep giving them away, you're going to lose. Today, with the Rams-Jacksonville game, the defense created a couple turnovers and the offense didn't give any away. And we had contributions from special teams, and that's the recipe for victory. Now, they just got to translate that recipe against a good team. The Jaguars touchdown drive early in the game, in the first quarter, it was eerily reminiscent of the last three games. Rams penalties, not being able to get off the field on third down, dropping interceptions, inability to create turnovers. And so all these things haunted them again. And Jacksonville chewed up a good chunk of time off the clock, marched down the field, scored a touchdown. I'm like, okay, same scenario, rearing its ugly head. 13 plays, 73 yards, and we got a 10-7 game. But something happened at that point in the game, which seemed to me to change the whole trajectory. Because I'll tell you what, Matt from Detroit, the Pigskin Poltergeist, you could see he was trying to make his appearance again today. And I tell you something else. The Pigskin Poltergeist is a malevolent spirit because he tries to get people hurt. I've seen Matt from Detroit show up and throw some passes. He's going to get one of these receivers seriously hurt. He throws high and wide and behind so often that the receivers are contorting to try to catch passes behind them, leaping to try and catch passes way overthrown. And you know who doesn't do that? OBJ. OBJ is not having any of it. He's like, nah, he goes T-Rex arms. OBJ, he goes crocodile. Like, can't reach it. And the funny part is he's famous for that amazing catch where he's fully extended at the apogee of his leap, one arm behind his head, and he snares it. So when he makes the effort, he can bring it down. But now, with the Pigskin Poltergeist, when he sees that shit sailing high over his head, he's like, T-Rex, I can't quite get there. You can barely slide a piece of paper underneath his feet when he leaps for it. Although he did put a little bit of vertical up for that fade that he caught in the second half. I hope that spirit of Matt from Detroit, the Pigskin Poltergeist, does not cause injury to one of our receivers before the season is over. But I tell you what happened that may have really changed the trajectory of the game. Matt from Detroit got the snot knocked out of him. That shot he took, kapow! And, he laid on the ground and writhed around a little bit, and I was like, oh, they got him. He put the helmet like right in the breastplate, And maybe more than anything knocked the wind out of him, but you could see there was no snot left in his body after that shot. And that might have been the best thing that could have happened for him and for the Rams, because it seemed like that exorcised that evil spirit right out of his body. Maybe we've discovered what type of exorcism is required to banish the Pigskin Poltergeist. Somebody just got to knock the snot out of him. One good time. Yapaya. And Matt from Detroit says, I'm out of here. I'll try you next week. Now, to be fair, he still threw more than a couple of high and wides. Okay? He'll dribble one or two as well. He'll throw one where there's nobody there except the defense every game. But once he got the snot knocked out of him, Matthew Stafford played like a pro NFL quarterback. I believe he finished the game with a QBR of 117.8. Okay? No interceptions. Hallelujah. No fumbles, no turnovers. He was 26 of 38 for 295 and 3 touchdowns. And that will work. And let me give credit while I'm sprinkling credit all around. Let me give credit to the boy genius. Well, first of all, he stayed committed to running the ball. He came out with a plan. I'm going to give Sony Michel 20 carries. I wanna stay true to my ground principles no matter what. He didn't have to play from behind for a change, which helped his psyche. He stayed true, and Sony Michel ran for his second highest ground game of his career in the NFL. He ran for 121 yards on 24 carries and a touchdown. And that is the first 100-yard game for a Rams running back this season. And it was sorely needed. And of course, we have to give credit to Cooper Kupp, who's all-world, leading the league in all important wide receiver categories. He had another 8 catches today for 129 plus another touchdown. So that all worked to the good. So maybe, if you see Matt from Detroit show up in a future game, like maybe against the Cardinals next week, McVay, now conscious of what's going on now, hopefully he's subscribing to the channel. Just call a play, let Whitworth, the left tackle, know, let the guy rattle him, and let him get the snot knocked out of him, and then he snaps out of it and he's good. So that might be how we have to exercise any Matt from Detroit demons the rest of the year, if and when they occur. And they probably will. So, Van Jefferson, another sketchy game. Too many drops from the kid. OBJ, as I mentioned, had the touchdown, but then he had a couple of T-Rex alligator arm efforts as well. I guess at his age and with the injuries he's had, he's like, there's no way I'm going to let the Pigskin Poltergeist be my demise at this point in my career. As an aside on the D, Ramsey's playing well, and Ernest Jones is flashing on the rookie, the kid. So, Les Snead, here's one for the Sneedster. Don't trade him for J.J. Watt or some old broken down player. Okay, let the kid play out and develop as a Ram. Okay, let the Kenny Young move be a lesson to you. Let's move on. All that wheeling and dealing, you're too cute by half. Too slick for your own good. You're outthinking everybody, including yourself. Had to get that out. I digress. Let's look forward now, because there are only 5 games left in the season, folks. So, next up, the Arizona Cardinals. And really, what can you say about the Cardinals? Really, other than they have been legit all year. They've led the NFL all year in terms of record. They were the last team that was undefeated. They have the best record in the NFL. They handled the Rams with ease when they visited the SoFi Palace way back. Games ago, they handed the Rams their first beatdown. And they've won games without Kyler Murray and without D-Hop. And now they're back. So the Cardinals are prepping for the stretch run. And as much as, I'd like to make a heart pick and say the Rams are going to find a way to go down there and derail them, I don't really see that. What I've seen of this team, even some of the same glimpses that I saw against the Jags, I don't know how that team, led by the Poltergeist, can go down to Arizona and knock off the front-running Cardinals on Sunday. So I can't call that. Just intellectually, I can't call it. Of course, I'll be rooting for the boys, no doubt about it. And hopefully, they'll go down there and upset them. But I can't call it. The Cardinals look to me to be legit. And I know a lot of people don't buy them, long term. But to me, they look to be legit. So we'll see. That's going to be intriguing to see how that game plays out. Now, you get past the Cardinals. The last four, you got Minnesota, Baltimore, Seattle, and San Francisco. Not in that order. And of the last five, including the Cardinals, can the Rams get 3 of them? If they can go 3-2, because I don't really see them whipping the Niners, to be honest with you. Baltimore, you got to hope they'll continue their dominance against Seattle. You got to hope they can go into the Dome in Minnesota and beat the Vikes. So that's 2. And maybe they can get 1 against either San Francisco, Baltimore, or the Cardinals. That'll give you 3. That gets you for a season record of 11-6. And that probably gets you a first-round matchup in Dallas at Jerry World. And I like that matchup. Okay? I don't believe in them Cowboys, not one damn little bit. Okay? But, to be honest with you, what the Rams have shown me this far into the season, I don't see them as a team that's going to compete with the Cardinals, Green Bay. They match up well with Tampa Bay, but for the money, I don't know if they'd be able to handle them in the playoffs in Tampa, which is where they'd be. So, they still have time to right the ship and show me something, but with consonants dropping passes and the Pigskin Poltergeist requiring weekly exorcisms, with the defense being up and down, with the boy genius having lapses, the running game now, I hope, having turned a corner, there's still time to salvage those dreams of glory. And it'll start with a very intriguing matchup Monday night in Arizona. But for today, the team won in all 3 phases. It was a get-right game, and they needed it. Now at 8-4, we look forward to the Gridbirds on Monday night. Scotty says, throw me one of these. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And until next time, my folks, one love.